Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. So today's topic is hymns from the Vedas. This is the third session. Now there is a special reason why I selected this topic. One may wonder why we must pay so much attention to these Vedic hymns. And today I'm going to deal with a topic perhaps which is a bit abstract. It is called Vedic meter or Vedic prosody. The main reason is these Vedic hymns present a way of life, a philosophy of life which has got a great relevance to our times. If you listen to these prayers and hymns, you'll be surprised the Vedic sages are not praying to an anthropomorphic creator God, or they are not praying just for being admitted to a very wonderful place where they will enjoy a lot of wonderful things in afterlife. They are praying for cosmic harmony, for peace, not for themselves alone, but also for the whole creation. So, Dyav Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, all these prayers. They are praying for the entire universe to be in a state of harmony and peace. Now the importance lies here. You can pray to a God whom you believe in, who will listen to your prayers and still be very unspiritual or non-spiritual. But you cannot pray for the good of the world, for the prosperity, peace and harmony of the whole creation, not only human beings, but for the whole creation without being spiritual. So, these Vedic hymns present a way of spiritual life, and mostly for householders. And that's one unique message of these Vedic hymns. It was essentially meant to present a very harmonious, a full, blessed life for householders, not for a specialized group who are exclusively devoted to religious life, like those who live in monasteries or convents, the monks or nuns. No. How to live a harmonious life even while playing the multiple roles in a family, the role of a husband, mother, son or daughter. To give an example, I shall begin with this. In the Vedic times, there was a very interesting school of education. Now, one may, of course, they say frequently this allegation is made in many modern commentaries that Vedas were meant to be taught and studied by a small exclusive group. But in the early Vedic times, it was not so. It was meant for the whole humanity, and it was meant not only for men, but also for women. Remember, we are talking about a way of life maybe around 7000 BC. And we know very well how many thousands of years it took, how many centuries it took for established religions to admit women to priestcraft. So here in Vedic times, you come across a message which tells you that these Vedas are meant not only for men, but also for women. They say, Om yathemam vacham kalyani mavadani janibhyam brahmarajanyabhyam sudrayacha aryayacha swaya charanayacha priyodevanam dakshinayi dhadurahu bhuya samayam me kama samudhaditamu vava madhu namatu. This comes from Yajurveda. But you know what it means? Om yathemam vacham kalyanim. Let this noble word, let this noble message of universal spiritual life be taught and be studied by everyone, by kings, by priests, by traders, by men, and also by women. That's the meaning of this great message. It comes in the Yajurveda. So very interesting. Yo yatha mam kalyanim vacham. It means this noble, auspicious message. Let this reach the whole humanity. Now, in ancient times, there was a system of education where after receiving education, mostly in the forest hermitages, where the teachers used to be, at least majority of them, retired householders. Most of the great teachers, or a large number of the great Vedic sages, were not monks, but they were leading a kind of monastic life after going through the earlier stages of studentship, householdership, and then third stage, retirement. Now, after finishing 12 years of education in a Vedic hermitage, a student or students, there should be many students, staying together with the teacher in a hermitage. They are returning home to start their life as normal householders, entering married life and then becoming, like going through different cycles. Now, as I mentioned, the studentship, householdership, the stage of retirement, and finally becoming mendicants. But we should also remember there was also a tradition of great people taking to mendicancy, monastic life, even from their early childhood. Shankaracharya and many others are examples. So, in modern times also you find many great monks, they started monastic life when they were young without going through these cycles. But that was only for a few people who were so inclined to a spiritual life. But for the common people, they used to go to a teacher living in a forest hermitage to study the Vedas. And after completion of 12 years of Vedic education, they used to go back to their homes. So the beginning of the education was called Upanayana, a kind of initiation, and the completion was called Samavartana. After finishing the education, they used to return home. When they returned home, the teachers used to give a kind of convocation, a set of instructions, how to live their life properly, how to when they go back to their homes, how they should behave towards the parents or husbands, depending upon the teacher, the student. How they should behave towards their parents, brothers, sisters, guests, teachers, and so on. Vedam manuchi acharya andayavasena manishasi satyam vada dharmam chara. That's how this instruction used to begin. After teaching the Vedas, these teachers used to give a set of instructions. You should practice dharma, you should speak the truth, and then they used to say, you should look upon your parents with the same respect with which you honor God Himself. So, Madrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Aditi Devo Bhava. So, a set of instructions. Meaning you should honor, respect, and look after your elders. And you should also bring up children as responsible, law-abiding, God-fearing citizens of the country, members of the family. There is no mention that you should go to a particular place and pray before a particular god, and you should hate everyone who doesn't worship that particular god in that particular manner. No, nothing of the kind. The kind of universalism, spiritual universalism and humanism, that's what you find in the Vedic hymns. So today I'm going to deal with this subject. So it may be a slightly academic, but we also need something somewhat serious, not just buttermilk. We also better have something substantial. So this. So now, to begin the subject, every householder was supposed to practice certain sacraments. And those who were devoted to Vedic studies, they had 40 sacraments called samskaras. And those who were not necessarily dedicated to a strictly Vedic way of life, they had only 16 samskaras or sacraments. In fact, the samskaras begin before a child is born, even before conception. So a mother should get ready and should go through a set of spiritual practices, like prayers and vows, so that her child will be a blessing for humanity and to herself. Because the spiritual practices, the prayers and the vows that parents practice will generate certain tendencies, attitudes and behavior patterns in the minds of the children. This is a very interesting aspect of it. There are elaborate sacraments which married couple were supposed to go through. So even the householder's life itself was looked upon as a pilgrimage. Husband and wife undertaking a joint pilgrimage, eventually aiming at the highest spiritual fulfillment. So there were 40, and for those who are interested, there was Srauda and Smarta sacraments. Sacraments or samskaras based on Vedic tradition and also based on Smriti tradition. Smritis were not universal scriptures. They were contemporary interpretations of Vedic way of life. If you read those books, you can forget the socio-anthropological trappings of those messages, and still if you look upon them, you find there are many wonderful values which are relevant even in this 21st century. How to live in harmony with nature, how to keep the oceans, rivers, mountains and valleys, and your pets and dogs and animal kingdom in a state of harmony and peace. So a kind of cosmic harmony, that was the central theme of Vedic way of life. So, as I mentioned, there were Sapta Havir Yajnas and Soma Yajnas, which are based on Srauda tradition, Vedic tradition. Then there were also 5 rituals which every householder was supposed to practice. And there were certain rituals that every householder was supposed to follow every day. Now, these rituals were called yajnas. I am not going to deal with all the 5 yajnas. They are called Pancha Maha Yajnas, which belong to the Smarta tradition, Smriti tradition. Many of these were subject to changes. From time to time, they could be differently interpreted, but the central principle remains intact. So the first one was Brahma Yajna, second was Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Aditi Yajna, Bali Vaishudeva Yajna. I am not going to deal with all the 5. I am only going to deal with one of them, but I shall give an outline of what the others really mean. The second one is called Deva Yajna. So by studying the sacred scriptures, by teaching the sacred scriptures, you are paying your indebtedness, your token of gratitude to the tradition of great sages and saints who wrote down or who realized these great truths, and how this came down to our times as a parambara called an unbroken succession. So how do you thank those great sages? How do you thank Socrates and Aristotle? By studying their books, they're teaching their books. It may not guarantee an extra $5 if you teach Aristotle in the 21st century. But if you look upon teaching Aristotle or Socrates as a sacred act of paying back our indebtedness to an ancient intellectual tradition, then it becomes a sacrament. So there was absolutely no profit motive. So how do you practice something which you know very well has absolutely no utilitarian value in this 21st century? If you do things only on the basis of pragmatism and utilitarian value, if it brings some reward, if it brings some benefit, I will do, otherwise I will not do. Such a society is doomed. If we cannot attach a sense of sanctity and sacredness to an ancient tradition and preserve it by learning and teaching, even at the cost of a lot of sacrifices, going through tremendous sacrifices, tremendous efforts, knowing fully well it will not help you to run your business better. It will not bring you one extra dollar. Still you do that. It is this sense of sacredness and sanctity, upholding a tradition, a heritage, at personal sacrifices, that guarantees the survival of human civilization. Now, that was the underlying principle of these 5 Pancha Mahayajnas. So one was, the second one is Deva Yajna. I'm going to deal with Brahma Yajna later because that's related to Gayatri, which I'm going to discuss today. Pitra Yajna, Shraddhas. For example, every year you remember your ancestors. Every year you remember how you inherited your tradition, your culture from your ancestors. Those who forget their past will have no future. It's a great statement in the decline and fall of Roman Empire. Romans forgot their past, so they lost their future. Gibbon describing the fall of Roman Empire, how the barbarians from the east came and destroyed in waves of invasions, Attila the Hun and all. So, remembering our ancestors, not that you make a statue of your great-grandfather and worship, not at all. Remembering and respecting, revering the memory. And if you want a proof, you can look at Chinese history. You know, during the Cultural Revolution, Chairman Mao nearly destroyed the whole of Chinese civilization. Nearly, not completely. But Chinese civilization survived because they had this unique concept of respecting their elders and respecting their ancestors. It's a strong cultural thread helped an ancient civilization to survive this social cataclysm. That's what the historians say. So Deva Yajna, Pitra Yajna, Aditi Yajna. Aditi is a person who visits your home without informing the day of his arrival. Tithi means the particular day on which he arrives. So if somebody happens to visit your home on a particular day without prior notice, and if you are hospitable, if you are generous, then you are performing Aditi Yajna. Somebody is called Nara Yajna. Then Bali Vaishwadeva Yajna, that is Bhuta Yajna sometimes called. Feeding the animals, looking after the animals, not forgetting your spiritual kinship with animals. You may not have physical kinship, but spiritually, the whole creation is one. The animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the humanity, all constitute one spiritual family. So, feeding the animals and being hospitable, showing hospitality to somebody who visits our home without even prior notice, and then remembering our indebtedness to ancestors, and again, much more important, remembering with a sense of sanctity, the spiritual heritage, the cultural heritage that we received from the ancient masters, saints and sages. It's called Devayajna. So these are 4 very important rituals which every householder is supposed to practice. When you become a monk, either you can become a monk when you are very young, or you can become a monk after going through these different stages after retirement. When you become a monk, when you take to the life of a mendicant, then your obligation to practice these rituals is over. You are no more obliged because you transcend that obligation. You don't reject it, but you go beyond it. Now, our subject here is related to Brahma Yajna. There is a reason for it. Brahma Yajna is essentially related to certain practices which every householder is supposed to do every day in the morning and evening. And that's what brings us to our subject. So it is called Sandhya Upasana. Sandhya means junction. Sandhi means junction. When night comes to an end and the day breaks in, or when day comes to an end, night begins. These are junctions. So it's called Sandhya, morning and evening. When there is twilight, either east or west, in the east in the morning and the west in the evening. At that time, every householder is supposed to go through a ritual which is called Sandhya. It is also called Vedopasana. It is also called invoking the all-pervading consciousness to be present in us, and through some mantras, and then finally saying goodbye to that consciousness to return next day morning or next time when you are performing this ritual. So the morning and evening, it is called Sandhya. It is the first and most important of the Pancha Mahayajnas. So that's what we are going to discuss today. Now, the name of that mantra that is the center, that's very center of this morning and evening invocation is called Gayatri. Now, Gayatri, if you look at the dictionary, you find Gayatri is translated into the English word meter. So in Sanskrit, it is called Chandas. So Gayatri is the name of a meter of innumerable meters. It is part of Vedic prosody. It is the most important and the most sacred poetic form of Vedic hymns. And it is that particular Gayatri mantra is structured in the particular meter. And the meter is called Gayatri. So the mantra also is called Gayatri. So in Sanskrit, it is called Chandas. It is one of the six complementary disciplines of Vedic study. There are 6 complementary disciplines of Vedic study called Vedangas. Anga means limbs, parts of complementary disciplines. Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Jyotisham, Chanda. These are the 6. Siksha means phonetics. You'll be surprised. The Vedic seers had evolved a very elaborate system of phonetics. It's called Vaidika Siksha, Paniniya Siksha, Naradiya Siksha. There are innumerable classical works on Vedic phonetics. And you have to remember, in English language, Daniel Jones wrote pronunciation of English in the beginning, the early decades of 20th century. And is called the father of English phonetics. He's not studied in America, of course. It's part of British studies, linguistic tradition, you know. So Daniel Jones is the father of English phonetics. Jimson and others, they wrote elaborate commentaries. It is called the English Pronouncing Dictionary and the Pronunciation of English and English Pronouncing Dictionary. The early decades of 20th century, Vedic phonetic classics were written around 6000 BC. So you can see a difference almost to 8,000 years between British Oxbridge accent English phonetics and Vedic phonetics. A gap of 8,000 years, 8 millennia. Now, there are many, and most important are Panini's school of phonetics, Paniniya Siksha and Naradiya Siksha. There are other important classical writings. It's all translated into European language like German, English. Of course, many of them were translated into German in the early decades of 19th century. You remember, Paniniya Siksha. So, now of these, so Siksha is the first one, and the second one is Kalpa. I mean, the description or explanation of how to perform Vedic rituals. It's called Kalpa. Then Vyakarana is grammar. It's a huge Sanskrit grammar books. If you fill a room, a room won't be enough. Patanjali's Mahabhasha itself, each volume is as big as Encyclopedia Britannica or Chambers Dictionary, and like that 13, 14 volumes, as big as Chambers or Webster's, Office Webster. So that is one of the several books, okay? Now Niruktam is Vedic etymology, the etymological description of Vedic sounds. Jyotisha is Vedic astronomy and Vedic astrology. And you know the great Bhaskara, Varahamihira, who are the well-known astronomers, whose books have been translated into most of the European languages. In fact, the beginning of 19th century, they were all, it's a part of the Vedic astronomy and astrology. And Chanda, that is prosody. So Gayatri is the most important element of Vedic prosody. It means the most beautiful and the most important meter. So I want to give some basic information, though it may not be very entertaining, but something very interesting. One is, you know, the Gayatri has 24 syllables. So those who want to study, to understand, if you study the English blank verses or iambic pentameter, tetrameter, you know, if you study Emerson's Brahma is iambic tetrameter. So you can see, you can get an idea of the elaborate structure of Vedic prosody. Okay, now Gayatri has 24 syllables. Each successive meter in this list has 4 more syllables. Now there are a number of meters, Jagadi, Trishtup, and so on. I'm not going to those descriptions, but the most important thing to remember is Gayatri is a meter and it has got 24 syllables in 3 padas, and is the most famous mantra in the entire Vedic literature. So the name of Gayatri and the name of the mantra, the name of the meter in which this mantra is structured, formulated, the name of the meter and the name of the mantra, both are the same. So that's the importance of Gayatri mantra. Now, there are quite a few descriptions of this Gayatri mantra which I want to explain, which are important in one way. Why this Gayatri Mantra is important? You find this Gayatri Mantra in many prayers. In fact, in America, quite a good number of musicians are put in Western musical way. Maybe not very amusing to hear, but still that shows the degree of sanctity that many people attach to this Gayatri Mantra. So there are many definitions as to why this Gayatri Mantra is important. So, the Giyate Anena iti Gayatri. It is used to sing as a hymn, as a praise to the all-pervading divine reality present everywhere. So, it is the most sacred. It is not a very long one, only 24 syllables, remember. But it is very short. But it's supposed to contain the whole essence of Vedic way of life and Vedanta philosophy. In fact, the Gayatri condensed further, it is called Pranava. You may have heard Om, that Omkara. The Omkara is a condensed form, condensation, the summary of Gayatri. And Gayatri is an elaboration of Omkara, Pranava. So a meter that is used to sing a song in praise of the all-pervading reality present everywhere. Now you can imagine, you can just visualize this. An householder, in the morning, he gets up, he takes bath, he faces the east, facing the sunrise, and he invokes the all-pervading divine reality, chanting a mantra. The essence of mantra is this all-pervading reality in the form of the spiritual effulgence. Let that protect me. That is the essence of the mantra. It has got a lot of profound meaning, which I will explain later. So the mantra is Om Tat Savidur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. We will describe, I will explain this later. So Gayatri Gayades Stuti Karmana, that is Yaska, the first and most important etymologist of Vedic language, says Gayatri is something, if you utter, it automatically becomes a prayer for your good and for the good of humanity. Gataram Trayade Tasmad Gayatri. It is something that saves, that protects, that preserves the one who sings it. Gayagam Trayade Padad Gayatri. It is something that helps you to be saved from the after effects of wrong actions, wrong doings, wrong thoughts, wrong deeds or words that you have committed. Something that protects you, that preserves you. Gayam Trade Tasmad Gayatri. It protects your health. It keeps your body and mind in a state of perfect equilibrium. Now, what does Gayatri do? There are long descriptions. When a person chants his Gayatri mantra, he gets the essence of what he studies, and he gets something more than the knowledge or information. He is able to understand the wisdom behind knowledge and information. So, the mantra is Om Tat Savidur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. The simple meaning might be something like this. May all of us attain that excellent glory, the effulgence, the knowledge of sun. So sun is the deity to which this prayer is addressed. Now, what is the role of sun? The sun actually protects the earth, the animal kingdom, the vegetation, and our own life. So, a prayer addressed to the sun, which says, may all of us attain the highest wisdom. Or let us all pray and adore the glorious sun, which is a symbol of wisdom and effulgence, which illuminates everything in this world, and who is responsible for protection and preservation of the whole creation, and who guarantees the continuity of existence. So that's the kind of literal meaning of this Gayatri mantra. So before I take up this mantra, I shall say a few things. When a person utters the Gayatri mantra, there are certain important rules to be followed. This is something very important. When you recite a mantra or even any kind of sacred verbal symbol, there are two ways of approaching it. One, just as a piece of literature. You understand literal meaning of this Gayatri mantra. For example, Tat means that, Savituhu means the sun, somebody who permits, who stimulates, who illuminates. Varenyam could mean the best, the excellent, the most auspicious. Bharga means light, radiance. Devasya means, is a possessive case, sixth case, so it's called of God. Dhimahi means we meditate upon, we contemplate upon. Dhiyaha means wisdom, intellect, purified, refined intellect. Yaha means the one who, Naha means to us. Prachodayat, the one who inspires, motivates, stimulates. So you can read a mantra and you can get a literal meaning. That is one approach to a mantra. So it's a piece of literature. There is another and much more important approach to my mantra. A mantra is a sacred word symbol which means much more than what it literally implies, or the literary implication of the word of that mantra is only a very insignificant, just a small aspect of the real implication of the mantra. A word symbol, a sacred word symbol, when it is recited, chanted, or contemplated upon, or meditated upon by great spiritual seekers, sages and saints for thousands of years, that word symbol accumulates a spiritual potency. That's the secret of many of the psalms, prayers, and word symbols practiced in all religious traditions. So very often when we speak a word, when we use a word, the word has got a literal meaning which you can find from Chambers or Webster's. It's only very rudimentary, superficial aspect of its significance. But there is a much more profound, much stronger, much more powerful implication. The sacred word symbol, when it is chanted or recited with a sense of sacredness and sanctity and earnestness for thousands of years by great spiritual seekers, you find that word accumulates a spiritual potency. And the same word, when recited by somebody after thousands of years, as the Gayatri is recited, then that spiritual potency of the word accumulated through thousands of years by meditation, contemplation, recitation by saints and sages, that comes to you. So that's one important aspect of mantras. Now, we should not get away with the impression that this is special to Gayatri Mantra or Hinduism. Maybe the most visible example I can give is the Jesus prayer described in the Way of a Pilgrim, which is a mystical work belonging to 19th century, written by a Russian mystic who was barely literate, who learned Jesus prayer from a Russian Orthodox monk in the middle of 19th century, before the emancipation of serfs. So you read about it in the Way of a Pilgrim, where the pilgrim, an ordinary man, a farmer, a peasant, happened to listen to a sermon on the first epistle of St. Paul. And he heard about the Jesus prayer. He wanted to know what it is, what it is all about. And he goes in search of somebody who could teach him that. When he learned it, he became a different person. Now, he listened to it in the church where the sermon was going on. Nothing happened to him. But when he was taught by a monk who himself was practicing, who was taught by other great mystics as a part of this succession of teachers, then a complete transformation came upon him, this person, and he became a saint. So that's the second aspect of a sacred word symbol. So that is much more important in the context of Gayatri Mantra. And many great saints, many spiritual seekers have warned people against practicing this mantra in a very serious ritualistic way without going through some preliminary process of self-purification and some sense control and all that. If you read it as a literary piece, nothing happens to you. Nothing very good happens, nothing very bad happens. But if a person practices this in a very intense manner, and if he doesn't go through the preliminary practices, disciplines, then it could be harmful, because mantras and word symbols, when meditated upon or recited or chanted with great intensity and concentration, generates energy, enthusiasm, effulgence in our mind. It invigorates the system. Before the mind is ready to accept it, if you do that, it can be counterproductive. So that is the second aspect of a mantra. So we should remember, whenever we look upon a word symbol, it has got two dimensions. The first, purely literary dimension. It is just a piece of literature. The same words are used, letters are used to form this sacred mantra. The same mantra becomes a potent spiritual force when practiced with great concentration. And it actually fills our heart. It takes us closer to God. It gives us spiritual wisdom and insight into everything, because it has been made potent. It has accumulated potency and power by the repetition and meditation and contemplation of great spiritual seekers and sages. So that is an important principle which is emphasized again and again in the Mantra Shastra. So Gayatri bhi Brahmana Didya Trishtubi Rajanyasya Jagadibhi Vaishasya. So that's why Aviditva Rishim Chando Daivadam Yogamevacha Yu Adhyabaye Jabedabi Papiyan Jayate Kisaha. You find many such statements. Gayatrim Chaiva Vedamsa Tulaya Samato Tulayin Sangha Ekatra Vedamsa Gayatri Chaigadasya. These are some of the mantras from references. What it means is this. For example, Aviditva Rishim Chando Daivadam Yogamevacha. So when a person repeats Gayatri, there is you have to repeat the Rishi, the great sage from whom it has come, and also the name of the Chanda, and also the particular deity to which it is addressed. These are some of the important things. I shall now try to give an example of how this Gayatri is recited, its implication, in a very little time. So, what normally they do, you can imagine the grandeur of this particular word symbol. When you look upon this sacred word symbol as a spiritual heritage, then, as I mentioned earlier, we have to practice certain disciplines of physical and mental purity and preparedness. After all, for everything we have to prepare ourselves. If we want to join Harvard, you cannot straight walk to Harvard. You have to go through the early stages of education, and you should be fit for that. If you become a doctor, you have to study medicine. You're a mechanic, you have to study all this. So many people think that spirituality means you're straight away, you get a walking interview. No. It also requires some preliminary training, preparations, so that we become fit, or we acquire spiritual fitness to make proper use of the results of these repetitions. So that's a very important principle to remember. So, normally, a spiritual seeker who wants to practice this should purify his body after taking bath in the morning. He should face the east, and he should recite a verse. The verse is very grand and very beautiful, where he is invoking this spiritual effulgence that is present everywhere, that is present in everything, to manifest in his heart. Somebody asked the question, if God is everywhere, then God is everywhere? Okay, then fine. And I am God. I am Aham Brahmasmi. People say God is present in me, and God is present everywhere. Then why take all this trouble? I am already God, and God is present. Nothing to do practically. That's only an idea. See, water is everywhere, but if you want to drink water, you have to dig a well somewhere. You have to dig the same spot. And it needs a lot of effort and labor. Then only you will get water that's worth drinking, or could be used for bathing. Water may be everywhere. That is only a principle. God may be everywhere, but that's only an idea or a concept. To translate an idea or a concept into a reality and experience, it requires a lot of practice. As I say, water is everywhere. We have to dig a well somewhere on the same spot, using the same force, for some time consistently. We can't dig everywhere, then you do nothing. Same place, with a lot of effort, consistency, steadiness, then you get water. So Gayatri is also like that. So it needs preparation. So this all-pervading spiritual energy is now requested, invoked, to be present in you, or to be a real thing for you. That may be it. To be a real experience to you. So, it is called Gayatri Avahana Mantra. Ayatu Varada Devi Aksharam Brahma Samvidam Gayatri Chandasam Madedam Brahma Jushaswana. This is a one mantra. So, Varaniyanam Arthanam Datri Gayatri Chandobir Bhanino Devada Aksharam Vinasirahidam Sambidam Vedanta Pramanena Samyak Nischittam Brahmadattum Asman Bodhayidam Agachadu. It's a request. You're requesting. And remember, Gayatri is a feminine gender. So that's called Veda Mata. So Gayatri has got a synonym. It is the mother of all knowledge. Veda actually means knowledge. So Gayatri is conceived to be a feminine entity, which is the mother of all knowledge, manifesting as spiritual truth, a spiritual energy everywhere. But right now, I have read about it, I heard about it, I am trained to practice it. But now, oh Mother, be a reality to me. Now you are a concept or an idea. Please manifest in front of me or manifest within me. That's the literal meaning of this. So Ayadu means please come. That means. Varada Devi. Varada means the one who gives boons. Devi is a feminine gender. Aksharam Brahma Samvidam, the eternal, immortal reality, which is Brahman itself. So, may the divine Gayatri, his boon conferring is called. He confers boon on everyone. That's called Varada. If you pray to Gayatri, the Gayatri opens its doors in front of you. Her doors in front of you. Because Veda Mada. And you are the same as the imperishable Brahman. You are the all-pervading, the transcendental, immanent, divine truth present everywhere. And you are the ultimate conclusion of all Vedanta. And you are the mother of all meters. As I mentioned earlier, Gayatri is the name of the most beautiful meter. There are several meters, Trishtup, Anushtup, Gayatri, etc. Of which Gayatri has got 24 syllables. So, it's the name of a meter, but the mantra is structured, formulated in the particular meter. The name of the meter and the name of the mantra happens to be the same. And it is so sublime that it is invoked in the morning by spiritual seekers facing the east, looking at the sun, and pleading, praying to be present in front of us. What does it mean to be present in front of us? Not standing in front of us. As I mentioned earlier, a mantra can be looked upon as a word formation, and mantra can also be looked upon as a sacred word symbol, which has become potent and powerful and sacred consistently by meditation, recitation, chanting, and contemplation by thousands of spiritual seekers for the last thousands of years. So when you chant that mantra, what happens is, an electric outlet is there, you plug it and that electricity passes to you, or not to you, of course, to the instrument through the wire. Otherwise, it's only dead wire. But when you mentally and physically get ready for it, and then plug it and chant it, then Gayatri manifests as a reality in front of you. So, this is called Gayatri Upasana. So the importance is this, as I mentioned. The great spiritual teachers have taught this again and again. As a spiritual practice, practice with intensity and earnestness one should undertake only after going through the necessary preparations. Physical purity, mental purity, contemplation and so on. But if you can read it as a literary piece, nothing great is going to happen to you, nothing very harmful either. But as a spiritual practice, it is a great spiritual sadhana, as a great spiritual discipline. So when we are ready for it, when we chant it, then what happens? When we chant it, that the power, the potency that the mantra has accumulated over thousands of years, because it was recited and practiced by great saints, it also becomes manifest in you. That's what happens. So the result depends upon the fitness, preparedness that we attain. And there are many mantras. Ojo si saho si belama si brajo si devanam dhamanama si vishwama si vishwayus sarvama si sarvayurabhiro Gayatri Mahavahayami Savitri Mahavahayami. It means you are invoking this Gayatri in front of you. So I shall continue this maybe on another occasion, but right now we don't have time to go through the whole thing. So after reciting this for an auspicious number of times, you are asking the same Gayatri. Now you go back, only to come back again when I invoke you again. So it is a practice, a discipline that an householder is supposed to do in the morning and evening. In the morning, facing the east where sun is rising, and in the evening, facing the west where the sun is setting. So junction, that is when the night becomes day or day becomes night. And after repeating these mantras, the practitioner requests this Gayatri, "Oh Mother, now you have blessed me, now you please go back. You are staying on the peak of the universe. You represent the highest evolution of spiritual knowledge. Remain there as long as you want. And then when I invoke you again, please manifest again in front of me." So this is what they do in the morning and the evening. Uttame shikhare devi bhumyam parvadamurdhani brahmane bhyobhyanujnada gacchadevi yatha sugam. That's what. Gacchadevi, Mother, you go back, only to come back again. Now, this is a practice, it's called Brahma Yajna, which every householder is supposed to practice every day in the morning and the evening, when nature is calm and quiet and tranquil. Now, of course, Vedic hymns are infinite number, Rig Veda itself contains more than almost 11,000 rigs, which constitute about more than 1,000 suktas, which each sukta has got innumerable mantras. It's called Rig in Rig Veda tradition. And many of these Rig Veda mantras are found in Samaveda. The same mantra which is more or less not very musical in Rig Veda becomes highly musical in Samaveda. So you find in the Indian musical tradition you call Saptaswaras, Western musical Saptaswara. All these Saptaswara, Traisthana, Murdha, Egona, Panchashat, all these are used for converting a Rig mantra into Saman. When a Rig mantra from Rig Veda becomes musical, it becomes Samaveda mantras. Anyway, there's a technical matter which I'm not going to detail. On another occasion, we continue the same topic, we'll take up the matter. So the point is, these Vedic hymns present, on the one hand, it present in front of us a very wonderful way of life. How to go about doing the duties and responsibilities, the multiple roles of an householder, husband and wife, son and daughter, sister and brother, and so on. and how to do our duty, the householders, how they should do their duty, their obligation to other relatives, to guests, to the teachers, to, of course, to everyone. How to become a law-abiding citizen, a good human being, at the same time, combine spirituality and the daily obligations which are inevitable, which are unavoidable for every householder. So that is the uniqueness of these Vedic hymns. Thank you. We will continue this discussion on another occasion. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.